we're in a battle for self-determination in this country.
This is the moment that and not only I, but others have been warning about.
We made the mistake of thinking that we're exceptional and therefore nothing bad can happen.
When I look at what we're seeing on display now that brought Trump back into power, I see a tripod, really, of three groups that go way back in American history. Predatory capitalists, white supremacists, and Christian nationalists.
Pretty much every imperial, post-imperial country has some kind of tradition which touches on fascist or is fascist.
And so we have to make that real and palatable for everyone.
Now we're facing an immediate crisis where the regime could change in the very near future.
The people we're seeing in power now, people like Donald Trump, people like Elon Musk, these are people who have a taste for mastery. They want to have that control over other people. They take pleasure in domination. They take pleasure in cruelty. They could take pleasure in the fact that they have so much power that they can stomp on your face and your kids. And that is exactly what they are doing. And we cannot understand this unless we understand the history of race in America.
People of America desperately want to have a better life for themselves and their families.
A lot of people think that we could get to a multiracial or pluralistic society or a multiracial society without talking about race.
We didn't address some of the structural problems, even when we could, which had to do with wealth inequality, with systemic racism, with the digital environment. And so this is why we are where we are.
Tracing the Koch network and the literally hundreds of organizations those donors have funded in an effort to shackle our democracy in order to empower oligarchs who believe essentially that taxation is theft, that they shouldn't be subject to regulation, and that majority rule is a real problem. Elon Musk is the spawn of this, right?
Fascism relies on the notion that there's an us and there's a them, and it usually in some way comes out of imperialism and the history of being the special people who get to conquer and not follow the rules, as opposed to the other people you don't acknowledge as people. And fascism involves taking those notions and practicing them inside your own country.
We all hold multiple identities, you know, as people of color, as women, as workers, as parents. We, as a society, need to reject these things that keep us separate and different.
And of course, in our country, there is the specificity of having created the country on the basis of conquest of land which was already settled, using slavery to do so.
And we'll never get to a society where everyone can thrive fully if we don't tackle those dog whistles that aren't even dog whistles anymore. They are very overt messages.
What they want to do is erase the 21st century. They want to erase 50 years of progress.
If you can trace it back to these interested multi-billionaires, particularly from the fossil fuel sector, that they would weaponize all of these anxieties and prejudices and stoke hatreds against people, stoke fear, stoke panic, so that they can keep profiting, just like those enslavers did, right? In the run-up to the Civil War, they would do anything to keep profiting from a filthy, dirty, dangerous industry. And I think once we start to make those historical connections and understand how their strategies work, we walk with a lot more pep in our step, right? And a lot more confidence, because we know what we're up against and we also know who we need to be walking with.
The people who want to be carrying out this counter-revolution understand how important the story is, because they're shutting it down in American states wherever they can.
They are terrified of what a multiracial, inclusive, robust democracy would mean, because it would mean the end of fossil fuels.
They understand that in order for us all to be free, we have to be able to understand each other. And the only way we can understand each other is by knowing something about each other's pasts. Because if you know nothing, then even with the best intentions, you can't even start a conversation. And freedom will always depend on solidarity, mutual understanding, empathy. Freedom, the people who oppose freedom understand that if you cut off the story, you cut off the solidarity, you separate out the groups, you make everybody feel alienated, and then you win.
If we aren't courageous enough to call out or bring into the room race and racism and white supremacy and how that's showing up, we're missing the mark. And I just think we have to be bold and courageous in even our conversations amongst ourselves.
You always see a group of teachers that are part of movement building.
It's very important for universities to cooperate with one another, not just show solidarity, but come up with some kind of common line, because otherwise universities and other institutions will just get picked off one after the other.
This is the United States of America. We used to believe in our future, that our future was going to be brighter than today or than our past. How is one of the first things you do is say you want to abolish the federal role in education?
These incredible attacks on the right to know, right? On the right to learn, the book banning, the anti-DEI campaigns, all of these things that are trying to make sure that Americans don't have the history and the knowledge they need to fight the attacks that are happening right now.
We need to bring those lived experiences into the room and also bring our history.
When somebody attacks teachers, they are trying to attack the core of the human endeavor.
It's also very important for professors and people who can protest to protest.
As the AIDS activist said so many years ago, silence equals death.
Because it is only protest which tells people that there's another normal besides the trend which they're seeing before their eyes.
We need to help create community so that none of us are doing this alone. And that's frankly what a labor movement is supposed to be.
Needing the story, it's not about being nice. It's important to be nice. It's important to be kind. But fundamentally, it's about acknowledging that we all have experiences. We're all coming from certain trajectories, and that we need those trajectories to be able to look each other in the eye and work together. And without working together, you can't be free.
So if we had the kind of robust democracy that they are trying to crush out, we could do so much. And we have come close. And the reason they are so determined now, and the reason that they are so furious and so cruel and so coordinated, is because they know this is their moment. If they don't make it at this moment, it's over for them. And so what I think we have to take from that is realizing if we can get our act together and stop them now, this would be amazing.